Good morning, everybody. Welcome.
Morning.
Before we call the roll, I'd like to take this time to, excuse me, introduce our new superintendent of schools in Maryland, Dr. Carrie Wright. We're really happy and very lucky to have her with us. She's had a vast experience in Maryland over the years. Excuse me. She at one time was a teacher in Prince George's County, taught in Howard County, was a principal in Howard County, was a director of special education and student services in Howard County, then became a associate superintendent of special education in Montgomery County. Then went on to hold significant positions in the Washington, D.C. public schools. I wish I could talk. And then was appointed as superintendent of schools in the state of Mississippi, where she held that position for 9 years. And you've probably read about her accomplishments, but while she was there, she instituted a significant set of reforms which greatly increased the proficiency in English language arts and mathematics. So we're very lucky to have her, and we want to welcome you, Dr. Wright. If you want to say a few words, feel free.
Well, thank you so much for such a warm welcome. Happy to be here, excited for the work that lies ahead of us. I think we've got a golden opportunity with the blueprint to really make some significant difference in the lives of our children. And so just happy to be here and learn today. This is the first time I've attended an IAC meeting, so I'll be anxious to see how I can contribute. But thank you for your welcome.
Sure, certainly. Okay, you want to call the roll?
Of course, Mr. Chair. Courtney League as designee for Secretary Chaudhry. Looks like he's here, Mr. Chair, but might be having some connection difficulties.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Mr. Derenberg?
Here.
Ms. Eberhardt?
Here.
Jill Limke as designee for Secretary Flora.
Here.
Mr. Gibbons?
Here.
Ms. Lala?
Here.
Dr. Wright?
Here.
And Chair Casemeyer.
Here. Thank you.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We do have a few very minor revisions to the agenda that I think you should have received yesterday. I don't think there's any significant things that need to be explained. If anyone has a question about the revisions, please ask us. Also, next, we did have someone scheduled to make public comment, Mrs. Bonanno from Frederick County regarding Brunswick High School. I assume that still hasn't been corrected, Cassandra?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Ms. Bonanno is having some technical difficulties.
So we're having some technical difficulties, so we'll include her comments in next month's minutes or try to make arrangements to have her speak next month if she would like to do that. Alex, you want to give your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes. Today I will provide a brief update on 5 items. First is the status of our transition of our agency to independent status. It is mostly complete with the exception of some finance and accounting functions and the transfer of the agency's 2 state cars. I would like to thank Department of Budget and Management's Financial Compliance Unit for the first-rate support that they have provided in coordinating all of the many state agencies that have had to take action to move all of these pieces as we shift to independent agency structure. It sounds like we have some audio on for Ms. Bonanno here.
Yes, I apologize. Right. Just getting some technology. I'd like to make a public comment, if that's okay.
Hi, Ms. Bonanno. This is Ed Casemeyer, Chair. Welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Thank you for being willing to make a few comments this morning. You have about 3 minutes, if you could. So
okay.
When you're ready, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to make a public comment. My name is Hope Bonanno, and I have been a resident of Brunswick, Maryland for 18 years and have a 9th and 5th grader in the Brunswick feeder pattern at Frederick County Public Schools. I am also the chairperson of the Brunswick High School New Build Committee. Brunswick High School was built in 1965, and it's the oldest high school in Frederick County. In 2018, 2019, the process to determine eligibility for renovation or replacement of VHS began. In an effort to secure a replacement, Brunswick residents actively participated in several community meetings prior to the release of the feasibility study. On June 12, 2019, the Brunswick community packed the Board of Education meeting advocating for replacement of VHS. The board approved the replacement. However, a year later, in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, during a virtual meeting, the Board of Education approved the 2020 Educational Facilities Master Plan, which delayed Brunswick High School opening until at least 2033. Advocacy to reprioritize the VHS replacement was restarted with the Brunswick City's creation of the VHS New Build Committee in January 23. VHS New Build Committee and concerned Brunswick community members gave public comment at every Board of Education meeting from January to June 2023, outlining safety, security, and educational equity concerns at VHS. Some of these meetings were standing room only, in large part due to the Brunswick community members in attendance. Commenters included current and former students, parents, concerned residents, former FCPS Board of Education members, Brunswick City Mayor Nathan Brown, several members of the Brunswick City Council, and state delegates. The VHS New Build Committee has also interacted with our county executive, Frederick County Council, as well as engaging representatives of Maryland General Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Delegates. And most recently, we met with Governor Moore in Annapolis to discuss the replacement of VHS. In addition, the committee has also arranged several tours of VHS, which were attended by local, county, and state officials. And we cordially invite all members of the IAC to tour VHS too. The IAC approval of state funds is a vital step in making replacement of VHS a near-term reality. The Brunswick community, and more recently the VHS New Build Committee, has been advocating for an equitable, safe, secure, and pedagogically sound environment for our students and staff for over 4 years. Our students and staff deserve to learn and thrive in a 21st century facility, and we respectfully request the IAC approve the FY 2025 funding request submitted by Frederick County for the replacement of VHS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Bonanno? While you're still on the line, Ms. Bonanno, Mr. Donahue has a response he'd like to make to your concerns. Alex?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Ms. Bonanno, thank you for your comments today. The IAC is working very closely with Frederick County Public Schools and Frederick County government to align all available state dollars to fit with available local dollars to move forward the projects in Frederick County's master plan and a sequence of projects. The need is great. There are significant pressures in a number of parts of the county in both utilization and condition need. And this project is one that is absolutely high on the list for that. I don't personally see any issues causing the project to not be supportable by the IAC. The challenge is that there are 4 other projects currently underway that are using quite a bit of funding, local and state, and there is another new school that is being built for enrollment pressures as well. So I think you can rest assured that Brunswick project and the others are being moved forward as quickly as possible.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Good to hear from you.
Thank you for your comment.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Alex, you want to go on with your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes. I was just thanking the Department of Budget Management for their thorough and first-rate support in our transition to agency independence. Second item is the status of our office move to the Camden Yards warehouse. Cassandra has been able to obtain great support from our colleagues at the Stadium Authority to move the tenant fit-out work forward, and we are looking now at a target completion date of early to mid-December. And that should allow us to move our staff from the temporary space in the warehouse and from MSDE's building on West Baltimore Street to the dedicated space in the Camden Yards warehouse in mid to late December. And I will update you at your December meeting on the latest at that point. Third item today is a brief summary of the status of the fiscal year 25 CIP. In the CIP requests received to date from the LEAs, there are more than 200 project requests totaling just over $1 billion, which at this point reflects a small increase over last year's total request level of $980 million. However, we expect some additions and amendments in the coming weeks, and the total request level may increase. At next month's meeting, we will go over the process for the CIP in some depth, as well as look at the 75% level recommendations. Fourth is an update on my ongoing outreach work to stakeholders. I've continued to visit with officials from many LEAs and counties, including making a presentation to the Public School Superintendents Association of Maryland Superintendents Academy on how the IAC works with LEAs around school facilities portfolio management. Earlier this week, I joined my counterparts from about 20 other state facilities agencies from around the country in talking with members of Congress about the need for greater federal support in both funding and technical assistance to states and LEAs to support educationally sufficient and fiscally sustainable portfolios of school facilities. That work is bearing fruit. There are now new federal grants that are being rolled out to states and localities for school facilities. That's a change over past decades where there was virtually no federal funding or role. So I consider that to be good progress. Yesterday, I also had a very positive face-to-face meeting with Comptroller Brooke Learman, who strongly supported the state's school construction program. And she recently voted for a 45% increase in the state's general obligation bond level in coming years, specifically in part to help meet the enormous need for capital funds for school facilities in the state. And later this afternoon, I will be presenting to LEAs and other stakeholders at the winter conference of the Maryland Association of School Business Officials, or ASBO. Last but not least, I will mention briefly that the federal government yesterday selected Greenbelt, Maryland over the other DC and Virginia options as the site for the new FBI headquarters. This is great news because it means that Maryland will benefit for many years from the economic and community development that will come with hosting such a large federal employer. But it also means that the $100 million in state funds earmarked for making the project happen, which if a Maryland site had not been selected would have come to the IAC this year for school construction, will not be added to our fiscal 25 CIP funding. And that concludes my updates for today. Happy to stand for any questions you might have.
Any questions? Thank you, Alex. Consent agenda. Alex, anything specific we need to talk about on the consent agenda?
No, this month's agenda is pretty much standard. I will just note that the site approval for Prince George's County Public Schools is to support a new site to replace an old school to be included in the coming public-private partnership package of 8 schools to be replaced. And the school closure item for Baltimore County is to support a shift of seats for pre-K and special education in the Northwest region to bring more students back to their neighborhood schools.
That's item G.
Yes, G. Thank you, Mr. Chair. No other notes.
Do I hear a motion that we approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair. Gloria Lawler.
Second, Mr. Derenberg. Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Item 3, rescission of section 107 of the IAC Administrative Procedures Guide. Cassandra?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. In 2014, the IAC approved a sustainable community projects policy, which allowed the IAC to fund certain major school construction projects in areas designated for revitalization efforts under the Department of Housing and Community Development's Sustainable Communities program. Specifically, this allowed the IAC to fund projects that would not typically be eligible for state funding due to enrollment and utilization issues, so long as they met certain other criteria. Since 2014, as far as we can tell, the program has only been used to fund one project, and that was several years ago. As you all know, the IAC has evolved greatly over the last several years, including increased efforts to target our limited resources to projects that improve the fiscal sustainability of each LEA school facilities portfolio. Through that lens, IAC staff have evaluated the existing policy and believe that it can be reworked and improved to meet the needs of projects in areas designated as sustainable communities, but also to better balance with the IAC's mission and vision. IAC staff recommend that you rescind the existing policy today and that you direct staff to work with the Department of Housing and Community Development to draft a new and improved policy, which will be presented to the IAC for review at a future IAC meeting. It's worth noting that the IAC staff recently received correspondence from Worcester County regarding the existing sustainable communities policy. In their correspondence, Worcester noted that their Buckingham Elementary School project didn't meet all of the requirements of the Sustainable Communities program and asked IAC staff to evaluate the project to see if it was fundable under the program. We did do that evaluation and agreed with Worcester that the proposed project did not meet the requirements of the program, which prompted us to look at this policy and start to consider how it could be improved to meet the IAC's goals and to better support the LEAs. Mr. Chair, the motion for this item is to rescind Section 107 of the Sustainable Community Projects of the Public School Construction Program Administrative Procedures Guide, and to direct IAC staff to draft a replacement policy in consultation with the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development for presentation to the IAC for approval at an upcoming meeting.
Someone like to make that motion for purposes of
So
discussion?
moved, Mr. Chair.
Second? Mr. Gibbons. Melissa, did you want to say something? I see your hand up in your square there. Okay. Any discussion on this issue? While we're talking about it, Cassandra mentioned the school in Worcester County, Buckingham. And from background information, we're doing a lot of work, Alex and Cassandra, with the folks in Worcester County to try to help them get what they want. Any other discussion on this motion?
Mr. Chair, I would just like to make a comment and offer of assistance. The Maryland Department of Planning staffs the Governor's Smart Growth Subcabinet, which includes the Department of Housing and Community Development. We are also looking at the Sustainable Communities Program for potential improvements and enhancements. So we would offer our assistance in this effort to the IAC staff.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you very much. On the motion, all in favor, say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 4, Built to Learn funding request, Kent County Public Schools, Kent Middle School replacement. Arabia, on page 37.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. I'm pleased to have the Capital Projects Manager for Kent County, Lisa Vaughn, join me. Lisa will be available to respond to all project-related questions. Effective February 12, 2021, the Built to Learn Act authorized the IAC to approve the project scope and establish the maximum state allocation for projects on a rolling basis. Based on current information from the Maryland Stadium Authority, each local education agency's total allocation is calculated based on the available debt service payments to support the bonds, which at this time is $1.7 million. The commission is being asked to approve $1.7 million, I'm sorry, $1.7 million. The commission is being asked to approve the county's request for design funding. Well, I should have said 1.7 billion. I apologize.
Okay.
I got it right this time.
Yeah.
The commission is being asked to approve the county's request for design funding through the Built to Learn program for the replacement of Kent Middle Schools totaling 1.5 million, which is the BTL allocation reserved for the LEA through this program. Based on a state share of 50%, the estimated maximum amount eligible for design services is 1.8 million. The balance of design funds is anticipated to be requested through this year's capital improvement program. The estimated maximum state construction costs will be determined once enrollments, design progress, and other funding factors have been analyzed by staff of the IAC. We are in full support of the request to approve design service funding and recommend approval. I can read the motion, which is to approve Kent County Public Schools Built to Learn request for partial funding for design services for the Kent County Middle School replacement project totaling $1,569,659. Funding factors are considered preliminary until the IAC approves the project for construction funding at a later date.
Thank you, Arabia.
You're welcome.
Someone like to make that motion, please? Ms. Nemke, second by Ms. Everhart. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 5, acceptance of late FY 2025 CIP submissions. Arabia?
Yes. On an annual basis, the IAC establishes a deadline for submission of school construction project request and Board of Education letters of support for the capital improvement program. For fiscal year 2025, the deadline for both submissions was October 4th, 2023. Written confirmation of the board's letter of support is necessary as it serves as confirmation that the local share of funding for a project is available. Without the documentation, staff are not able to recommend projects for IAC approval. Since the IAC adopted the FY25 instructions and submission deadlines at their July 2023 IAC meeting, which, by the way, had not been done in prior years, your approval of late submissions is requested. The IAC received FY25 CIP project requests from every local education agency and the Maryland School for the Blind. Of that number, the IAC received one late CIP submission. There were, however, a number of LEAs that submitted the Board of Education letters after the required deadline. To date, there are about 8 LEAs that have not submitted the letters of support. Staff are working closely with them on this matter. The motion is to accept a late capital improvement program submission from Garrett County and the late submission of the Board of Education letters of support for Allegheny, Anne Arundel, Calvert, Charles, Dorchester, Frederick, Kent, Washington, and Worcester counties.
Yeah, all those counties aren't in the motion but that's, I guess we're going to make amendments for that. Do I hear a motion to accept the late submission?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second?
Gloria Lawler.
Mr. Gibbons. Any discussion?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
What does this do to our staff by getting these late notices? Or
we'll continue to review all the project submissions. If we don't get it in time for the 75% round, then I would leave that up to Alex to respond to say that it would not be eligible. I mean, we would review it just to have everything in place in case we get it. And we do anticipate that we'll receive all of the letters before the November 30th deadline.
so is the date the problem that they have, or it's just that the process?
I think that we've changed things slightly for this fiscal year, and we've pretty much made a requirement of documentation by having the IAC approve the instructions. So I think it was inadvertently in most cases not included because maybe it was included in the educational facilities master plan and they just didn't think that they had to. I think more so that was the issue with the submissions.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Derenberg, if I may, this timeline is tight. On some years, the fact that the IAC meetings come a little bit earlier in the month than in other years gives the LEAs a little bit less time to work with. In addition, I believe that essentially they had more time for their local approval processes in the years when these went through the Board of Public Works at a later date. Now the timeline is just tighter and more difficult. However, in answer to your specific concern, Commissioner Derenberg, it isn't going to derail our process internally to give them this extra time. We're in close consultation with the LEA staffs on each of these issues. We will work with them to get the information in. It doesn't pose any deal breaker for us, but we certainly wanted to come to you and ask for your approval because it is to vary essentially dates and rules set in your adopted instructions this year.
Okay, great.
The only deal breaker is that if they do not submit the letter, then they will not be eligible to receive IAC approval.
And they all know that.
Yes, they
absolutely.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
This was the first year we had these dates. as stringent as they are?
Yes.
So what concerns me is the practicality of it all. So if somebody misses a deadline, we're going to tell them they can't submit their request?
We're looking at whether we should in future years revert back to having the dates be a little bit more flexible, or essentially give the executive director more discretion to allow that, so that it doesn't have to be an official request for leniency here in this situation.
We can't treat anybody differently than anybody else, obviously.
Right.
Okay. I forget where we were. We had a motion. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Item 6, Capital Improvement Program Rescission Amendment Request, Washington County Public Schools. Sharon Johnson?
We have Lisa and Sharon on for this item.
Oh, okay. Lisa.
Do we have there we go. Sharon, good morning.
Good morning.
Anytime you're ready, Sharon, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the commission.
Good morning.
Washington County Public Schools informed the IC staff on September the 26th, 2003, that 4 bids received for 4 construction projects awarded funds through the FY23 CIP projects came in higher than anticipated. The amount of funds needed to allow the FY23 CIP projects to move forward totals in $1,227,034, as shown in the 5th column in Table 2 on page 41. To cover the FY23 CIP maximum state allocation fund deficit, the LEA is asking to approve to rescind 4 projects awarded funding through the FY24 CIP, totaling $1,470,686, and to transfer the funds to the LEA reserve account, as shown in the 3rd column in Table 1. If approved, the funds will be transferred to the LEA Reserve Account Fund and used to increase the state share of the FY23 CIP projects. As background information per COMAR, the state sets the maximum state construction allocation in the State Capital Improvement Program. The IEC may increase the maximum state allocation for a systemic renovation project when the LEA submits the bid tabulation for the project and the IEC determines that the requested scope of work is eligible for state funding and the scope of work and associated costs are reasonable. Staff of the IAC has reviewed the bid tabs and is in full support of the LEA request. At this time, I would like to introduce the Capital Project Manager for Washington County, Lisa Vaughn, to provide additional project-specific information. Lisa?
Thank you, Sharon. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. The 4 FY23 systemic projects, which include 2 electrical replacements and 2 boiler replacements, were originally estimated in the summer and fall of 2021. Since that time, the market has experienced increases in electrical and mechanical equipment, manufacturing costs, transportation costs, and labor, all of which have contributed to these projects coming in over the original budget. The 4 FY24 systemic projects Washington County Public Schools is requesting to rescind will not be given up on. They intend to resubmit these projects for funding through the Healthy Schools Facility Fund and a future CIP request. I will now stand for questions or read the motion.
Read the motion, Lisa, please.
The motion to approve the rescission of 4 Washington County Public Schools FY 2024 Capital Improvement Program projects as presented in Table 1 of this item totaling $1,470,686 and to transfer the funds to the LEA's reserve account and to increase in accordance with COMAR 14390207 project allocations for 4 FY 2023 Washington County CIP projects as presented in Table 2.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to support Ms. Everhart and Mr. Derenberg? Any questions regarding this motion? this issue? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Raise your hands. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you very much, Lisa. Item 7, FY 2024 Capital Improvement Program Rescission Request, Baltimore City Public Schools, Mount Washington Modular Addition. Tatiana and Jean. Whoever wants to go first. Tatiana, I think you're on mute.
Tatiana, can you quickly test?
Is that better?
There we go. You're quiet, but we can hear you.
Okay, I apologize. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the commission.
Morning.
It is my pleasure to present Baltimore City Public Schools request to rescind a total of $5,376 awarded through the fiscal year 2024 CIP for the Mount Washington School Modular Addition project. The LEA was able to secure federal funds through elementary and secondary school emergency relief program administered by the Maryland State Department of Education to complete this project. Baltimore City has also requested that the funds be transferred to their reserve fund account for reallocation to the fiscal year 2025 CIP Northeast Middle School limited renovation requests. The realignment of these funds to Northeast Middle will allow for new bond funds to be utilized to address other school construction needs within the city. Staff of the IAC are in support of Baltimore City Schools rescission requests. Mr. Chair, I can read the motion and then invite Jean, the lead capital project manager for Baltimore City Schools, to respond to questions regarding the above referenced project.
Okay, why don't you go read it, Tatiana?
Okay. To approve the rescission of $5,376 for the Mount Washington School Modular Addition Project, PSC 30-26824, awarded through Baltimore City Public Schools fiscal year 2024 Capital Improvement Program. In addition to transferring $5,376 to the LEA's reserve account and then allocating the $5,376 from the reserve account to fund Northeast Middle School Limited Renovation Project PSC 30.137.25, approved for funding through the LEA's fiscal year 2023 CIP.
Thank you. Someone like to make that motion? Ms. Everhart, second by Mr. Gibbons. Thank you, Jean. Anybody have any questions for Tatiana or Jean on this issue? Thanks for being here, Jean. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hands.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 8, FY 2023 Aging School Program Schedule Adjustment. Arabia?
Yes, the commission approved the procedures and established the deadline for submission of reimbursement requests for the FY 2023 Aging Schools program in April of 2022. However, due to significant delays with delivery of materials and its impact on the project completion schedule for a number of projects, local education agencies have notified the IAC staff that an extension to the deadline is needed. The staff's belief that other LEAs will possibly experience the same issues in the near future. Therefore, staff are recommending that an adjustment to the FY 23 reimbursement submission deadline be approved. Staff will evaluate future submission deadlines to better understand whether additional modifications are needed to account for this unpredictable construction market. The motion is to approve an adjustment to the FY 2023 Aging Schools Program reimbursement submission deadline from December 1st, 2023 to February 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Arabia.
You're welcome.
Someone like to make that motion, please? Mr. Darren, second by Superintendent Wright. Any discussion on this motion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye, please. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9, disposal of state-owned relocatable unit and approval of funding for demolition, St. Mary's County Public Schools. Tom Lockman. Hi, Tom.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. With me this morning is Lead Capital Projects Manager Gene Shanholtz, who will be available to respond to any questions regarding the on-the-ground details relating to this relocatable unit. So this action item is for the approval to dispose of a state-owned relocatable unit that is currently located at George Washington Carver Elementary School in St. Mary's County, and to provide funding in the amount of $6,668 from the statewide reserve account to demolish the unit. Earlier this fall, the IAC received correspondence from St. Mary's County Public Schools indicating that air quality testing and surveys conducted in this relocatable unit had confirmed the presence of elevated concentrations of airborne mold spores within the unit, likely resulting from building envelope issues stemming from the roof. SMCPS obtained proposals to explore the cost of remediation, restoration, and demolition, and concluded that given the extensive amount of mold impacted materials and the cost to refurbish, demolition of the unit would be the best course of action. IAC staff recognized that this relocatable unit, which was purchased by the state in 1987, has exceeded its expected useful life and would recommend approval of the request to dispose. In order for St. Mary's County Public Schools to proceed with demolition, the IAC must first approve of the disposal. The IAC approval will then initiate the process for final disposition that is required by the Department of General Services. The $6,668 in requested funding represents 58% of the total demolition cost, which is consistent with the state share that currently applies to St. Mary's County. And with that, we can now stand for questions, or I can read the motion.
Dean, do you have any comments you want to make about this?
Yeah, I can share some additional information. St. Mary's County Public Schools has indicated no one is currently occupying the state relocatable. The students and staff using the state relocatable have been moved back into the building temporarily until a new relocatable procured by St. Mary's County Public Schools is available. They plan on placing a new relocatable during winter break.
Thank you. I'm going to read the motion, Tom.
Yes, so the motion is to approve the disposal of state-owned relocatable unit number 38391, stationed at George Washington Carver Elementary School in St. Mary's County Public Schools for purposes of demolition, and to, upon approval of the disposition by the Department of General Services, provide funding totaling $6,668 for the demolition from the statewide reserve account.
Someone like to make this motion?
So moved.
Second, Mr. Gibbons. Questions? So how many relocatables do we have left in Maryland, have operating?
Mr. Chair, we have a few hundred relocatables, most of which are LEA owned or procured. However, we do have a state fleet of a little bit over 100 state-owned relocatables, of which this one is one. Many of them are on the older side, to put it lightly, and LEAs and the IAC are working together to appropriately plan for retirement and disposal of those relocatables. Although we do support the use of relocatables as a temporary solution to meet overutilization pressures in a school when there are not kind of more permanent capital solutions available, ones like these older state-owned ones are certainly appropriate for a replacement or disposal, and this is a good example of that.
Mr. Derenberg.
When was that one put in service in St. Mary County Schools? Was it 87? Has it been?
Yes, that's what it said.
It was purchased in 87, so that's my presumption since then.
Well, you don't know when they actually started to use it.
I don't. I would, and Gene, I don't know if we have any information directly from the LEA on that, or if it had been received from, if it had been in use in a different location prior. That would be information we need to track and circle back on, but certainly can do that.
We can check on that and bring it to you if you bring an answer to you next month if you like.
Yeah, I just wonder how temporary it was.
It appears, according to the facility inventory database, that state relocatable was placed in 2015.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Do we have ones in storage, or the ones the state owns? or they're all being used?
To my knowledge, Mr. Chair, all of the state-owned relocatables are deployed.
Okay.
But essentially what happens is if an LEA requests to use one and another LEA has recently relinquished a state unit that was there, we can help move that unit to another LEA. And I believe that's what's happened in this case, 2015.
Where are they going to get a new one from? Some other schools, LEA?
Well, go ahead, Gene.
They are procuring it through a vendor to place and purchase the unit.
Oh, a new one.
With local funds.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on this issue?
Wait, so we don't fund them anymore?
Mr. Derenberg, the state is not, to my knowledge, purchasing new state-owned relocatables. We're drawing down what had been a larger fleet for a couple decades, and we're down to near about 100 now, and essentially just retiring them through attrition.
Okay, great.
It was very informative. Thank you. All in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hands. Any opposed? Okay. Alex, is there anything else you want to bring up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, that concludes our agenda for this month.
Anyone else want to raise an issue? Well, once again, we want to welcome Dr. Wright, and I'm sure she's going to be a great help for Maryland and for us in terms of her knowledge and background. Do you hear a motion we adjourn? Ms. Everhart, second by Mr. Gibbons. Hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving. See you next month.
Same to you.
Thank you.